Good morning. On this bowl of Question Crunch, my friend Buster Balloon is here to answer questions about balloon toilets, being a teacher at the Clown Academy, and the very spooky festivities he is planning for Halloween. Buster, I love it that we're friends because you are one of the few. I think I have two clown friends, two officially clown friends. One's retired, and then there's you. Um, and we met at Midsummer Scream. We met via my first guest was Connor, and she's the person who introduced us. And you are a balloon artist. Is that the term for you?
Yes, balloon artist, balloon twister, dork who doesn't have a life, they all apply.
I mean, on your card does it say dork that doesn't have a life? Because I kind of want that now.
Actually, my business card says creative genius, balloon twisting savant, and pre-sweetened breakfast cereal connoisseur.
Fantastic. That's pretty good for this podcast. We are all about the cereal theming, so I love it. Um, how did you get into balloon? I was gonna say balloon sculpting, but how did you get into balloon twisting?
So when I was a kid, I loved art right from the beginning. So when I was a kid, I was completely obsessed with drawing and sculpting by the time I was 3. And when I was about 5 years old, I discovered magic and totally fell in love with magic. And when I was about 18, I discovered balloon twisting. And that was like the perfect melding of being a ham and being an artist at the same time. And that's why I do, you've seen me do the stage shows at Midsummer Scream, because creating the sculpture is one thing. I love the visual art aspect, but doing the balloon sculpting on stage and having that connection, that emotional connection of them watching a sculpture come alive and the interaction with the audience along the way is just, that experience is what makes it so much fun for me. That's my favorite part.
Well, the showmanship, just the part where you make the poodles with two a poodle per hand is amazing.
The double dog dare.
The double dog dare. It's amazing. I've seen you do it a few times, and it never fails to impress me. Like I'll be working on something in mid performance, I'm like, I gotta stare. I gotta see this. This is it. It's always impressive.
Thank you.
But you said you discovered balloon. You discovered balloon sculpting, balloon twisting. How did that discovery happen?
I'd known about balloon twisting for years. I'd gotten balloon
Sure.
at different parties and things. What really happened, and this is the funny and ironic part, is I was a very reluctant balloon twister at first. I was a serious back then, and I didn't want to learn balloons because I felt that was below me. I didn't need to do balloon animals because I was a magician. I was better than that. And then I had a friend who did strolling magic at a TGI Fridays for their Sunday brunches. And he needed a fill-in guy when he'd get better paying gigs outside. But the deal was it was family brunch. And so if I wanted to do the magic gig, I had to make balloon animals too for the kids at the tables. So I grudgingly learned my first few balloon animals. But lucky for me, I had a really great art teacher in high school. And her whole thing was that everything is a medium. So we worked in absolutely everything imaginable. And so when I picked up balloons, everything she had taught me just transferred over. All the same building blocks, all the same principles, all applied. And you being an artist yourself, when it comes to drawing or sculpting, when you first start roughing something out, you're gonna, like I'm doing a person. I'm gonna start with an oval for a head, cylinder, block, cylinder, square, right? Mm-hmm. But with balloons, it's all these different shapes and sizes and techniques that I know, and instead of plugging in those geometric shapes, I'm plugging in those different balloon shapes and combinations. And so once that clicked, once I understood that it was just a new medium with all the same concepts, and actually with a bigger palette, because every new balloon technique I learn becomes a new shape that I can plug in, suddenly the balloon twisting became my obsession.
That's impressive. How often do you learn a new technique? Is it just like a constant learning thing where other balloon twisters discover stuff?
Yeah, I've never been a technique guy as far as like creating the techniques.
Sure.
But when somebody else creates a new technique, I try to learn it, and then I'll I don't do as much as I used to. But really, there were times when I was younger where I'd learn a new technique and just spend a week just doing everything I could think of with that technique, applying it to every different shape and size of balloon I could find, and then turning it and twisting it, because there'd be times where I would make something that seemed like a complete failure, and I'd toss it aside. And then a day later, I'd walk into my office and see the same sculpture, but upside down. And now suddenly it sparks something. And I take that and run with it. I will tell you, I usually like to keep my interviews, at least PG, but we'll get a little racy now. One
Awesome.
time
No, go as racy as you want.
I
That's
was
okay.
working on a technique to make the bust of a female character, which didn't work out at all, but that turned into the world's best squirrel. It turns out what I thought was going to be good boobs was these awesome chipmunk cheeks.
that's a tale as old as time.
Who had that discovery at some point, right?
most squirrels are failed boobs. It's nature. It's science. That's amazing. I would never have thought that you reluctantly got into balloons.
Yeah, it's all because of Mrs. Schaefer. I remember we did styrofoam sculpting, we did wire sculpting. One day, someone made the unforgivable sin of crumpling up a perfectly good piece of paper unused and threw it in a trash can, and she found it and she was just livid, and so she made all of us take our art paper, crumple it up, and then do cave drawings on the rocky surface of our crumpled paper. So she really inspired me and instilled that in me, that everything's a medium and that you just experiment and play. And yeah, so when I discovered balloons, like everything she had taught me just it clicked. And I think the thing that really turned me was going to these tables in a restaurant, and I would do a card trick that I had spent months and months and months perfecting, and getting the position of my pinky just right and the misdirection and everything's perfect. And there'd still be that one guy who'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know what you did. You don't know what I no, I know what I did. I didn't even do anything yet." But he would think he knew what I did. And then I would turn around and make a dinosaur out of two balloons for his kid, and he would look at me in complete awe and go, "How do you do that?" Like it was, I was getting the response from the balloons that I wanted from the magic. And when I saw how that affected people, that really that jump started it. And it took decades. We're talking about when I was maybe my late teens, early 20s, making those first balloons. And so the evolution from just making balloon sculptures to actually turning it into real art and also into real performance, that was well over a decade for that whole thing to evolve. But it started, that spark was in that TGI Fridays, going table to table and seeing how people just were in awe of the simplest balloon animal. And like I literally, the card tricks, again, I'm doing stuff that I worked so hard on, and they would, yeah. And I could have handed them a balloon and said, "Okay, now do this." Like they literally could have gone step by step through it with me, and I could have taught them to make it there on the spot, but they still were just in complete wonder and couldn't understand how that was possible.
That's an interesting concept to really consider. The fact that when you're trying to be sneaky and you're trying to do a trick, people are going to look closely and they're going to be like, "No, everything you're doing, I understand it. I
Yes.
got that." And you're not even trying to be sneaky with the balloon animal. You're like, "Here's a balloon. Check it out. Now
Right.
it's an animal."
And
And you're
it's
doing it in
defense
front.
mechanism. There are those people who just don't like to be fooled, and I totally get that. And there again, that evolution as a performer, as an artist, when I was 20 and wanting to fool people versus now I'm on the edge of 50 and I realize that magic by its nature should be secretive. The techniques, the mechanics of it should be a secret, but it's not about fooling someone. If you don't want the mechanics to be obvious because you don't want to take them out of that moment. Right. So if they get a hint of how it works, it can break the illusion and take them out of that moment of wonder. But it's really about creating that experience. And so whether you fool them or not doesn't matter. It's how they feel at the end of it. And same thing with the balloons. You know, I've got a friend who years ago made he spent hours and hours on a sculpture for a client. And it was a guy's 50th birthday, and he had some, you know, super expensive sports car. So the wife wanted him to make the sports car out of balloons. So he makes a scale model and goes like way overboard, way beyond what they wanted. And like, you know, the controls on the dashboard and every tiny detail recreated. And he shows up with it and they're like, ooh, ah. And then 10 minutes later, the guy with the live monkey shows up. Suddenly nobody cares about the balloon guy anymore. And the monkey sees the car and goes to town on it and just destroys this beautiful sculpture my friend had spent like 5 hours on. And they're all laughing, having a great time. And what I realize now is part of why that probably happened is because they didn't see him make it. They had no idea the effort and the time and talent that went into that sculpture. You know, so they're used to seeing balloon sculptures happen in a matter of minutes. They don't know that took 5 hours. So they're in the moment and they're enjoying that experience. Versus when I do my stage shows, even making a simple balloon. You know, you were talking about the dogs. I just make 2 simple balloon dogs, but it's done with showmanship, and there's a connection between me and the audience. And if I hand someone that balloon dog afterwards, they're going to treat it like it's the most amazing balloon animal they've ever gotten in their lives, because there was an emotional connection and an experience. And they're going to tell that story later. They're going to talk about the guy who made a balloon dog with one hand, and that they're the one who got to take it home that day. And so I think that's it. That's why the stage shows are so cool, because the balloon sculptures aren't just these static visual pieces of art. There's an emotional connection to them. And that's what theater and art should do.
I totally understand what you mean by that, because when I do comic book conventions, when comic book conventions were a thing, a lot of artists can do free sketches and we can have a tip jar, and the tip can come in. Now, a lot of my artist friends, they will spend way more time on their drawing, and they may or may not get tip from the person. While I will knock that stuff out and I'll get a lot of tip. And I told them that you don't know if you're going to get tip. And this is a free drawing, so don't worry about being that good. They just want to see a drawing done as fast as possible, or they want to see like a thing. They want to see you do art. A lot of people, when they buy comic books, well, not comic book fans. Comic book fans, they get it that every page is hours upon hours of work. But a lot of people, they don't understand that. So, and if a monkey comes by and rips up the comic book, they're going to enjoy that a lot more.
Right.
What are some of the strangest balloon sculptures you've created? Now, and I follow you on social media, and I always think that I've seen the weirdest thing, but then you post something else, and I'm just like, oh, that's amazing. I'm always impressed.
So years and years and years ago, and I can't even post a picture of it because it wouldn't translate in picture. I don't even think video would properly make it translate. I made a working toilet for somebody.
Hey, what? Hold on.
With me on this. So I made a toilet bowl out of balloons, fairly large, not quite life size, but like 3/4 scale. So I made a toilet bowl, and then I took a big clear balloon and I made a little rubber ducky, because it was a family restaurant. So I made a rubber ducky instead of something else. And I put that inside that clear balloon, and then I filled the clear balloon about halfway with water and put that in the bowl of the toilet. And so if you held the toilet and you gave it a little swirl, the water would spin around, the little ducky would get caught up in the whirlpool.
Okay, all right. That's still really amazing. But when you said a working toilet, I was like, does it flush? Did you make it like
quite that working, but
Oh, my mind, I lost it at first when you said working toilet, though, because I was like, they add the plumbing? Did you actually construct a balloon toilet that people can use? That's insane.
See,
But
it's a
no,
slot machine. So not really a working slot machine, but when you pulled the handle, the tumblers did spin.
that's pretty
It
cool.
wasn't random, but they did move. So that was a fun sculpture to do.
I that's amazing that because like the static balloons the static balloons where there's no working or moving contraptions are already impressive enough, but the fact that you add a little extra to that, like adding water to a balloon sculpture, I would never have even thought about that.
Well, again, that goes back to the theater stuff.
Sure.
Doing drama in high school and studying theater my whole life. Looking at how, again, if even if I'm not doing a stage show necessarily, how are they going to interact with the sculpture? So is there some kinetic element that's going to move? Or, my big thing for the last 20 years has been making everything I do wearable. Because it's one thing to hand somebody a static sculpture, it's another thing when they actually become part of the art piece. So if I make them a balloon hat or a balloon on a hairband, or if a jetpack that a kid's going to wear and then run around the party like he's flying, how are they going to interact with this piece? Because that's what gives it life and makes it important to them.
Interactivity is always important.
Otherwise you just make a balloon sculpture, and I've seen it over and over again at events where you hand somebody a regular balloon sculpture and 5 minutes later it's tucked under a table next to mom's purse or something. Just completely forgotten about.
And I've seen a bunch of the dresses that you've made, and they are breathtaking works of art.
Why, thank you. Those usually take, for me, they take between 8 and 12 hours. But I'm also very slow. I don't. My daughter and some of the other younger balloon twisters out there, I've seen them knock dresses out in like 2 to 4 hours. In fact, there was a dress competition in Japan a few years ago that I went to, and they had a 2-hour time limit. And at first, I was blown away. I was like, "There's no way these are going to be like super short dresses or bikinis." And they were coming out with these insane, elaborate balloon sculptures. And the deal was it was 2-hour time limit, and you only got a 2-person crew, which meant it was either the balloon designer and another experienced balloon twister to help them make it, who was also going to have to be the model, or the designer and then a model who didn't necessarily know how to twist balloons. So you had to compromise. If you didn't find an absolutely stunning knockout model who was also a really great balloon twister, you're own with the design. Versus get a friend who's not a model but willing to wear the dress and knows how to twist balloons so you can get this thing done. And it was just incredible what they accomplished in that tiny time frame with just 2 people. And a few of the artists picked models who had no balloon twisting experience. So it was literally just them in 2 hours knocking out these insane creations.
I almost feel like that should get you more points in this competition if it's just you and the models just standing straight as you build around them.
I think so, yeah.
That's nuts. Like your time is already impressive, but 2 hours?
Yeah, I will tell you, the traveling the world is amazing. And the first time I went to Japan and meeting balloon artists from Japan, and there are also artists from Korea and other places who are there, and the East versus West philosophies of balloon art were very, very different. And I think it's melding more. We're kind of meeting in the middle now. But when I first went to Japan years ago, here in the US, like if you go to a balloon store, people will ask, where are the twister balloons or where are the entertainer balloons? Because there's a very separate section for what balloon twisters use versus what the decorators use. And when I went to Japan, there was no division between the two. Everyone who decorated knew how to twist. Everyone who twisted knew how to decorate. And the only distinction between a decorator and a twister was the end result. Are you twisting something live at an event to give to somebody, or are you making a display that they're going to come and see, or like a delivery piece. But that was the definition. Every decorator used twister techniques in their sculptures, and every twister used decorator techniques in their sculptures. And because of that, they did just insane stuff. And also just their focus and commitment to their work. I was doing a class that I would have never ever done in a million years here in the US back then, because they wanted a hands-on class that was super advanced. We were making these gigantic monster heads, and this is a sculpture that would take me about 20 minutes to make by myself, let alone doing it hands-on and waiting for every student in the class to catch up and having to pause to help this person and that person, things like that. There's no way I would have ever attempted that. And that first trip, they pushed. They're like, no, they really, really want these designs. All right, fine. And I figured the class was going to be a disaster. So halfway through the class, we've made this gigantic werewolf mask. I'm looking out, and there are 40 perfect replicas of my werewolf mask staring back at me, and no one's falling behind. And just I pause. I'm like, out of curiosity, I got to know, how many of you have been twisting for more than 2 years? And about half the hands went up. All right, who's only been twisting for like a year or so? And about a quarter of the hands went up. So there were the people in that class who only been twisting for a year, and half who were at like 2 years or less. And they were all able to keep up step for step with this amazing, fairly complex sculpture, especially for the time. And we made 2 of these masks. We did Werewolf and Frankenstein, and everyone was right with me the entire time. And it was really a cool experience, and it changed how I looked at balloon art, because realizing that I'd always liked using every technique. You know, like I said, I want every tool in my toolbox. So when I go to do that plug and play thing with those shapes, I want as many different tools on my palette as possible. So I learned decorator techniques, and I played with balloons that twisters don't traditionally use. And going there and seeing that that was the norm was just so amazing. And I think it was really great that more American teachers and more European teachers started going to those events in Japan and Korea and Singapore, because we started bringing that idea back. And then those artists also started coming to our conventions here. And I think the Americans got tired of getting their butts kicked every year when the Japanese would show up. And so they started upping their game. And suddenly we saw this incredible revolution where balloon art really started accelerating faster and faster. You know, it's almost like computers sometimes. I think much like computer technology, we've kind of plateaued for a little while. There hasn't been a really big revolution for a while, but watching how fast that evolution happened for about a decade, and especially with the internet, where now artists all over the world, it wasn't a matter of whether or not you could afford a plane ticket to go to this event. Everyone was sharing ideas online, and just the evolution where we went from balloon dresses being something that you saw occasionally if you went to one of these events, to something that I would say half of all serious balloon artists have probably made a dress at some point, at least one. So it's really, really, it's a fun industry, and it's a cool industry and art form. And I love that we've got a very family community with it, where it's very open source. I will go ahead and talk smack about my magician friends. Magicians are just closed off and horrible little bastards. Sorry, that's probably rude. But by its nature, magic is about secrets, and magicians have always very much been very proprietary about their secrets and who they're going to share this secret with, or that secret. And balloon twisters have pretty much always been open source. So really, there's very little information in the balloon world. I mean, I sell downloadable tutorials that people can purchase and learn from, and there's plenty of other people. But for the most part, when it comes to like the techniques, not the necessarily the actual designs and patterns, but the techniques to get there, those are pretty much all open source. And for a really good balloon artist, if you really want to copy somebody's design, if you know the techniques, you can probably recreate it or something fairly close to it. Or if you're at that level, you're probably inventing your own design, so you don't need to copy other people's stuff.
Sure.
I'm rambling now and going on and
No,
on.
you're not. You are not rambling. This is amazing. These are
art form.
This is stuff that a lot of people will not know, because first of all, I did not know there were dress competitions and ballooning.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I am absolutely, as soon as we're done with this interview, I'm going to go on YouTube and see if I can find a video of these, because I want to see it. I think it's amazing. Now,
and fashion shows. So my daughter is actually one of the most, I'd say she's probably one of the most successful and most respected balloon designers in the world. And a few years ago, we were at a balloon convention and we're like, hey, this is so much fun. We get to catch up because she lives in Vegas. We don't always get to see each other as much as we want to. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about coming out next week. She's like, yeah, I want to be in Egypt for the next 3 weeks on a gig. So there was a shopping center in Egypt that flew her out, paid her to be there for 3 weeks to build like a balloon dress a day. She got weekends off, but 5 days a week, she made a dress a day to be on exhibit and be modeled at a shopping center in Egypt.
That's too cool. Yeah, don't worry about rambling, because this is stuff that we don't know about. Most people don't know about, and I think that's amazing. It is not rambling. My favorite part is that I was wondering when you were talking about how it is very global, that information that people in the balloon world, they like to talk about stuff, they like to instruct stuff, because I was wondering how open the community was, because some communities, some groups of artists, you brought up the magicians, ego can get in the way, and it's really warm and welcoming. It's awesome to hear, like, voice actors. A lot of times when I'm hanging out with voice actors, it always seems like they're really friendly people, and they just want to talk about their craft. They just want to talk about what they're passionate about. So I am glad to hear that balloon artists are the same.
And just to clarify, I am sort of half joking about the magicians. There are stories about like legitimate blood feuds and fist fights in the past, like way back past.
I've seen the Prestige.
Magic world. You've loosened up a bit, and I'm one of the voices in the balloon world that's kind of pushing us to be a little less open source, because the problem is, I love how open and sharing our community is, but it's so open that people don't always pause to give credit where credit's due. And it's not even just, you owe this guy money because you're making his design. It's, we've totally forgotten who this person was and what they did for the art form. So it's feel free to share and put everything out there, but remember where that came from. And make sure you keep that person's memory alive and understand that you built on what that person gave you to get here.
Which is always the danger for any artist, actually. I don't want. It's not necessarily. I mean, I like money, but for the most part, I just want to be mentioned. Just say my name. Just. I felt that way about my previous. The previous episode of my podcast was the creator of Drawloween, where he's just like, you can use Drawloween in anything. You can make any book of Drawloween, but just if you could just say my name right there in the blurb, just write it down there. I'm okay with that. Just let people know I created it. I would appreciate that. I mean, because if you put the work behind it, you want to be recognized for the work, at least. So, on the 1989 Batman movie, Batman steals Joker's balloons.
Yes.
Just a rude move for a many superhero. Which superhero
Batman
would you
stole
want?
My balloons. Why didn't somebody tell me he had one of those things?
I love how upset Joker looks too when he looks up, because he's not even upset that he's not gonna be able to kill everyone. He's upset that Batman's stealing his balloons.
And that's where Nicholson really nailed Joker, because Joker's ability to flip flop like that. One minute he's a homicidal maniac, and the next minute he's giggling about something ridiculous that just happened.
Sure, and being upset about just the idea that he's ruining his party, not about like all the people in the
Yeah.
death, because he can kill anyone with a gun. That's whatever. Joker can do that. It's you. I designed those balloons. Those are my balloons. Which superhero would you want to steal your balloons? Which superhero would you be okay with?
All right, I hate to go with the obvious choice, but it'd be Batman.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Most superheroes not known for their creativity.
Okay.
Like Superman, great guy and everything, but sweet, lovable, nice to a fault, not super creative.
I don't think he's created anything, because I think that the Fortress of Solitude was not even designed by him.
And you know what? If you're Superman, you don't have to.
That's fair.
You got heat vision, you can fly, and you're impervious to pretty much everything except for green rocks from outer space. So, whatever. But Batman is like really the most creative and ingenious superhero there is. If anyone's gonna take my balloons and do something interesting with them, it's gonna be Batman, because Batman was like MacGyver before there was a MacGyver. It's like he's the guy who's gonna do something interesting with them.
And he's a collector, so while Superman might throw your balloons into space, and that's rude because no one's gonna be able to see these balloons until it comes back.
There's no air in space. How do you blow them up? Duh.
But Batman will put it in his Batcave, and if it's like a really good balloon that he wants to keep as a trophy, he'll keep it. He will honor that. And anyone that comes in the cave, he'll be like, I have a whole story behind that balloon.
No, it's going to go somewhere. I want to be the world's greatest detective. That's where I want my balloons to go.
That totally makes sense. I can appreciate that. Now, you've also taught at the American Clown Academy, right?
I have.
How often?
We've got there a third year in a row, but things went sideways this summer. But I'll be back next year because it was a really, really fun event.
The videos that you posted were they weren't terrifying, thank God, because I think you were the only one with the red nose. Like you weren't. All of the other clowns, like the videos I saw on your Instagram, are of teaching people pie throwing, right?
Yes, I posted an extended video of the pie fight class, which is a highlight of the event every year. And for obvious reasons, people don't wear their good costume or put their makeup on, because you're gonna spend an hour putting your makeup on just to get it pied off, and you don't have an audience. It's just the class there. So yeah, nobody really gets dressed up for that. We only really, really get dressed up for like the big events. So like the end of American Clown Academy, when people are getting their certificate of accomplishment at the end of the event, some people want to be in their full costume so they can get a picture with the head of the school with their certificate, things like that. But mostly, yeah, it's casual, and you're learning, and you just want to be comfortable. So yeah, it's casual clowning for the most part.
No clowning is casual, but I'm glad that when I saw those videos, there weren't anyone in costume. That was appreciated. I was like, oh no, Clown Academy, this is awful. And it was just pies. I'm like, okay, cool. I can watch pies. Pies are fine. I love pie.
Well, and the thing that I like about American Clown Academy is that it's not really focused on the aesthetic of being a clown. There are classes on, if you want tips on your makeup, they've got people who can consult with you and help you work on your makeup. They've got people who are experts on that. They've got people who can help you with costuming and things like that. But really, the classes are all focused on the end result. It's how you are going into the world and presenting yourself as a clown. So yeah, there's, and it's all over the place. There's usually a track on hometown clowning, which is just the local birthday party clown guy. Especially like if you're in a small town and like you're the only clown. Like this is marketing and skill sets that you would need just to be your local guy. And then there's a circus clowning track, which is taught by former Ringling Brothers clowns.
Ah.
And half of that is creating skits and like the Ringling Brothers method of how they used to create the clown skits for the shows and the process they went through. And the other half is just guys who were former Ringling clowns babbling and telling old stories about stuff that happened on the road. So that class is lots of fun. And then, this last year there was a track that was just marketing stuff. People who just they've got their clown skills and they just want to know how to take it out into the world and be more effective selling themselves and getting gigs. And so we did a whole track on that. There's a track on hospital clowning because there are a lot of clowns who go into hospitals, and not just for kids, but for anybody who's, spending an extended amount of time in the hospital and just someone to brighten their day. And the incredible thing, I've never done hospital clowning, but I have friends who do, and that, sometimes you're going in there and you're cracking jokes and you're playing the ukulele and you're making the family laugh, and other times you're just stopping to be the person who they talk to and cry with because it's a really bad day. And so that's like a whole separate skill set that they teach there at the academy. And then we also bring in some of the world's top clowns. So like my friend Iman and Abner the Eccentric. And so people who are, less the red-nosed, big shoe clown and more the theatrical clown, almost not quite the Cirque du Soleil type clowning. And with the students, it's the only clown event I've ever been to, because I've been to several different clown conventions where I've taught. Usually just a couple days though. This is a full week of like really intensive studies, and the students who come to it are all over the map. You've got the older clowns who are, they're the ones you're used to seeing like a birthday party, the heavy makeup and things like that. They're the ones who have been going out and doing their local town clown parade for years. And then you got the younger, more Cirque du Soleil, where it's about physical movement, and a lot of them aren't even wearing the traditional clown makeup. They might have a nose at most, kind of like me. I don't wear the makeup or anything. I wear a brown zoot suit and a bow tie. But there's clowning the aesthetic, the look of it, and then there's clowning the performance aspect. And the American Clown Academy really covers all aspects of the performance, whether it's traditional, some magic tricks and some jokes and a puppet birthday party kind of clowning that so many people know, or if it's that higher level theatrical clowning. It really covers the entire spectrum, and the students who come there cover the entire wide range of all of that as well. And then, so I did not post the video, and you're lucky because this would have scared the snot out of you most likely. They have the student showcase. Usually it's the second to last night of the academy. There's a local theater, and like this beautiful old theater. So balcony and everything. And we take all the students and we spend the whole week while they're studying. We're actually letting people audition pieces that they brought to camp. And if you're selected, you then get put with a mentor who helps you refine that piece for a few days. And if you're one of the lucky 12 that's selected, you actually go on stage and perform your skit at that student showcase. No teachers are in the showcase at all. It's just highlighting the students. So they get to showcase and be on stage in front of 500 or 600 people in this glorious theater. And then we also have a opening number and closing number with every single student at American Clown Academy.
Yeah.
So people, this is Jimmy's worst nightmare.
Depends on how
on stage at once.
Depends on how the clowns look, because if it's just the Cirque du Soleil clowns, I can handle the Cirque du Soleil clowns. It's the
that show
the
is
August.
A lot of grease paint and big shoes. No, Jimmy would not be happy there.
It's the august clowns I can't handle.
Things. Oh my gosh, Jimmy, that should be one of your things, one of your fundraiser things. You will come to American Clown Academy and be on stage for the big number at the end of the show.
As we've been talking about this, I was even trying to think of how much money I would want to raise to do that.
Jimmy, we can make this happen.
Oh my God, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah, not just come to the show. I want you on that stage.
Getting a pie in the face or something.
Yes.
That sounds terrifying. Most of what you said about that Clown Academy sounds, well, it's weird because on one hand, I think it's amazing that it's the range of clowning is pretty cool. I like hearing that the study of it is not so much just making funny sounds or anything. That they really home in on the art form. They really work on the art. I also think it's amazing that you were saying that the clowns go to the hospital and being able to go from being funny and making jokes and making people laugh to being someone to talk to. Do they have like a therapist on hand to teach that sort of stuff, or?
There's actually there are training programs. Usually, like it's not just a random clown that shows up.
Yeah.
There are actual clown troops that specialize in this and they'll make one or two hospitals their home base that they work out of. And so they've worked with the hospital staff, and any new clown that comes in goes through a whole training program with the experienced members of the group before they go in there. But yeah, obviously their job is not to like get into heavy therapy or anything.
Sure.
But just being empathetic and being able to switch gears and read people and understand what somebody needs at that moment that's what's really amazing to me of what they do.
Yeah, because you don't want someone to be obnoxious and trying to make a joke when someone really doesn't
Right.
want a joke.
It's really really not good. So yeah, they're all very experienced with this. I know New York, there's a few groups there. A friend of mine was actually a hospital clown in New York and worked with a couple of the different troops there. And I have a friend here that's most of her clowning at this point is doing hospitals, and she's actually been really bummed because this entire pandemic she hasn't been able to go into the hospital.
Yeah.
Because they're not letting the clowns come in for obvious reasons. But also she's a little bit older herself, so aside from the hospital's regulations, she's also kind of high risk and probably shouldn't be around too many people. So it's really sad to see how much that bums her out, because that was a really, really big part of who she was before this all happened.
Totally understandable. And as much as I hate clowns, I do have to tip my hat. That's a cool program. That's a cool aspect I was not aware existed.
I'm amazed by them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What is Buster Balloon's Tricks and Treats?
Buster Balloon's Tricks and Treats.
I saw that on your website, and I want more people to know about it.
So for Halloween, I'm doing a few different things for Halloween. For big public events, I've got a couple of live shows that I'll be doing, and I'll be posting info on those soon. And of course, those are social distance. I won't be able to bring kids up on stage and interact like I normally would, but we'll still have live shows. And then I'm doing a bunch of virtual shows. The Tricks and Treats thing that I put together is a virtual visit where a family can book a 15-minute visit with me. And it's a short Halloween themed show, happens here in my office. Like I said, this is my Zoom setup. So it's 15-minute of spooky magic, and then, okay, parents, this is the time to send the kids out of the room. What I do is before the show, I actually mail a scare package to the parents. Just see scare package instead of care package.
I got it.
So I send the scare package ahead of time, make sure they have it before we do the show, because what happens is during the show, there are going to be interactive elements, and there are things in the box that are actually going to play into the show. So, for example, if the kids and I do a card trick together, and the trick ends with the card vanishing and then reappears in the living room with the kids. And then at the end
That's
of
pretty
the show,
cool.
I've got a little goodie bag for each of the kids with some candy and, plastic skeletons and spiders and just all the fun Halloween stuff. And the end of the show, I bring those out, they disappear, and then with a little help from the parents, they reappear at the house for the kids.
So if someone is in, because we're all stuck inside, we're stuck inside, there's no trick or treating. This sounds like a pretty amazing way to keep the holiday alive and to give the kids something to do.
I think it's gonna be fun. And again, I think everyone's got their comfort level of what they can and can't do. And I know that there are some people who are thrilled that I'm going to have some live shows they can come to, even though it's going to be different and social distanced. They're still excited to come and have that live event. But I've got a lot of friends and a lot of clients who have underlying health issues, and they should not be coming to those events. The last thing I want is to find out that a kid who I love lost a parent or a grandparent or someone else because they came to a show that I was at. So that's why I'm also doing virtual shows. I'm doing a virtual show with the Anaheim Fall Festival this year and a few other events online that'll be free and available to all of my friends. And then if they want to do something extra special, I've got this personal one-on-one family visit where we do the Zoom show and the tricks and treats. Because some families will go trick-or-treating. There are socially distanced trick-or-treat events out there. I've been trying to hook up with one of the drive-through trick-or-treat events because I think that would be really fun to perform for a family while they're in their car. But yeah, there's drive-through haunted houses, and there's a couple of drive-through trick-or-treat events where you drive in and they give you your candy, and you drive to the next stop, they give you your candy, and you go out. But for people who can't do that or just want to add something a little extra to their holiday season, that I think these tricks and treats events are going to be fun.
And the tricks or treats, that is
Tricks and treats.
Tricks and
they
treats.
Get both. They get magic treats.
There's no or.
Again, with the play on words.
So how does someone get into that? Do they go on your website or?
Yep, just go to busterballoon.com and fill out the contact form there, or they can just email me at busterballoon@me.com. I keep very weird hours, so calling me is not always the most effective way to reach me, but if they email or send the contact form from the website, I can get back to them at whatever weird hours I'm awake and able to do that.
That's pretty awesome. So if I'm having like a Halloween party, which I'm not because I'm stuck inside the house, I don't I don't know how I'd be able to. I don't have a big enough house to do any kind of social distancing that's safe. But if someone does have a family and they have they want to spice up their Halloween, they want to make their Halloween more entertaining, they want to do something for the kids, they could put your tricks and treats on the TV, hopefully, if they can connect their internet to the TV. And that sounds really amazing. That sounds pretty cool. Are there any magic tricks? I mean, I don't want you to spoil anything, but are there any magic tricks where you are going to plant something with the parents but do the magic on the screen?
No, of course not. Why would I do that? That would be cheap, Jimmy.
That wouldn't make any.
Of course, we're gonna do that.
That wouldn't make any sense. Why?
We're totally doing that. All right, I will tell you. I've got a card trick.
No, you don't have to spoil any details. You can.
There's a super scary card trick that I have, which sounds like an oxymoron. A card trick should not be able to be scary, but it is. It is a scary card trick, and it's only for kids. Like, I have to approve the kids. It's recommended for kids 12 and up. And I get the final say on if we do that trick or not, because I don't want to be hit with somebody's therapy bill after kid.
You want to have like a trigger warning right there. That would be a thing. I'm often worried whenever I do like a scary artwork and someone's flipping through my portfolio and I'm like, this might not be a good idea.
My social media, I have to warn people every year, leading up to it. There's like a week of warnings. I'm about to go full spooky. If you are not into this stuff, feel free to unfollow me for the next 2 months, because I'm just going to bombard you with Halloween stuff every day for 60 days now.
What's the month say? I'm gonna go spooky.
Yeah. That's it. That's the turning point. And I see, like, at the beginning of the spooky post, there's always not a huge drop, but there's always, like maybe 10 to 20 people who drop off. I'll watch the numbers dip, and then that number goes way up leading up towards Halloween. And I'll lose those people who don't want to follow, but then I'll get all these new people who are totally into it. And you being here in Southern California, we've got a huge and very enthusiastic year-round Halloween and horror community here. I can't think of any place else in the country or even the world that has as many year-round spooky themed businesses and attractions as we do. We've got like a dozen horror themed bars and restaurants alone, not to mention all the other places.
I love it when you show up in places I don't expect you to show up. Like I'll follow spooky people, and then they'll be like, "Oh, hey, I met Buster Balloon," or "We had Buster Balloon show up in the studio and do his thing." And I'm like, "Yep, that's that's what he does." I love seeing you show up, especially when it comes to like just the spooky community, because whenever I think about like people in my friend group who pretty much they are the spooky months. They are October. Like
Right.
Connor's one of them, the paranormal pixie, and then there's you, where whenever Halloween comes in, I know that my life's going to be a whole lot better. My social media is going to be a lot better.
Oh,
And what was it? I think who's doing the live event that you're going to be at? I think it's called Spooky Booze.
Spooksy Boo, yes.
Spooksy Boo. Okay, cool. I couldn't remember the.
Yeah, Katie does this just super, super cute artwork, and she does occasionally some normal stuff, but it's almost all creepy, or it's super cute versions of scary characters or non-scary characters that she's zombified or turned into voodoo dolls, and they're they're the most adorable things. And her husband created a spin-off company. He runs Spooksy Boo events because they kind of got into making their own like night market events and things where her and her friends who were spooky vendors would all get together and do these things. So now they're producing their own events, and I've got 2 events coming up with them in October. I'll be with them at the Anaheim Garden Walk on October 3rd and the 10th.
And I think let's see, October 3rd is that Saturday? Yeah, it's a
Yep,
Saturday.
both
It's the
Saturdays.
first Saturday. Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, because like that weekend, I'm like, do I want to brave the pandemic and go to these live events? But they're safe. They're safe. You social
Yeah,
distance.
again,
That's cool.
it's all outdoors,
Wearing
and
masks, cover
we
mouth and
cut down
nose.
the number of vendors so it's more spaced out. Uh,
uh,
and yeah, they've really, I think, as much as you can make things safe under the conditions, I think
sure.
they've done an amazing job with it. But both them and the shopping center that's hosting them.
I would totally be there, but that is a 24-hour comic book day, and I have not missed a 24-hour comic book day in. I think I'm on year 12. It's either
Wow.
if it's year 12, that's cool, but if it's year 13, I'm definitely not going to skip year 13.
Right? No, you can't do that.
I can't remember what year I'm on. I got to double check on that. Um, so when I mentioned that you are one of the icons of Halloween, in my opinion, in my world, you're one of the icons of Halloween. What does Halloween mean to you? Because we met at a Halloween convention, and
We
so
did.
that also might help why you're one of the icons of Halloween.
Well, sure, there's that. I think for me, Halloween is the ultimate kid holiday for me. When I was a kid, Halloween was my favorite, and I've actually really been thinking about this lately because trying to reinvent Halloween events this year and make them work around where people are and where we are societally at the moment. And I think Halloween's so cool because like Christmas is great. Christmas you get presents and candy and all the awesome food and stuff. But Christmas is also about your family, and it's about, okay, now we're going to go here and now we're going to do this. And Halloween is all about kids and freedom. It's you get to pick your costume. You decide which houses are too scary to go to or not. And you decide how many houses you're going to go to get your candy. And I just feel like the the freedom of it for kids, because it does allow them that freedom of expression and that fun, and it really is just pure fun. There's no obligation of where we have to be at any given time for dinner or anything like that, and we don't have to wait for somebody else to show up before we open our presents. It's just about pure kid fun. And I love the idea of, like, I love all the spooky stuff. I'm an all-around horror nerd. I love the cheesy, like, Disney Twitches and Descendants and Halloween Town side of it. I also love, the super intense scary movie horror side of all this. But there's something extra special about the kid element of Halloween and keeping that alive and keeping that fun for kids, because they only get a little window of that. They only get like a tiny little sliver of that. And I'm just really, really committed to making those few years they have as amazing as possible and create those magical memories that are hopefully going to last with them like they have for guys like you and me.
I never really I never really thought about that with Halloween, that it is the only holiday where kids get to be in charge about what's going to happen.
Yeah, you decide if you want to be spooky or if you want to be a princess or a clown.
They get to design the pumpkin. They get to design the face.
Yeah, it's pure kiddom.
Well, because like every other holiday, I can't think of another holiday that's totally freedom for kids. I mean, sure, their birthday is designed for them, but they don't get to. They might be able to get to decide the theme. Where if they're like, oh, I like Sonic the Hedgehog, they can make it Sonic the Hedgehog. But again, you're right that Halloween, like I've seen jack-o'-lanterns that don't really have a face. That's just a bunch of weird shapes that have been carved in this pumpkin.
Fine. Plus, here's the thing. I don't want to sound like I'm down on anybody. Okay, I don't want to seem like I'm saying it's wrong.
Sure.
I know the guy. Okay, I know him, and I'm a huge fan. I've met him more times I can count, and he is sweet and lovable and just one of the nicest human beings. But Christmas has the pressure of being good because Santa's watching. Okay, and no matter how magnanimous he might be, there's still some pressure there. How good your Christmas is depends on how good Santa thought you were. And the Easter Bunny's not quite as bad, but kind of still has that. Meanwhile, Halloween's about you. You pick everything. And it's not about whether you're good or bad. In fact, you're allowed to be a little mischievous. You're expected to be a little mischievous that night.
Yeah, and you are going door to door and threatening people.
Yes. I think we have sadly gotten away from the trick or treat part,
which I'm okay with. I'm actually okay with that.
If there's not a treat.
If my house got egged, hopefully it doesn't. But if my house got egged, I'd be like, cool. I guess it's going to be egged for a while. I'm not going to clean that up. I'm not.
Right, like Christmas, the whole caroling, how freaking passive aggressive is that? Hey, we're singing happy songs. We're singing songs. Now bring us food. We want figgy pudding. Seriously?
We're not going to go until we get some.
Sing? You just came here and sang, and now you want something in return? What's that all about? Reciprocity so much? Halloween? No, it's trick or treat. Hi, we've come for candy. If you don't give it to us, we're going to egg your house. Simple, clean, straightforward.
We're not playing around we're not beating around the bush here.
No passive aggressive nonsense. It's a very simple transaction.
Now, what are you doing differently? Well, I mean, performance-wise, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff differently because it's a pandemic Halloween. But what are you going to do at your own home differently now that we're in the pandemic celebrating Halloween?
Well, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I live in a small gated apartment complex, and we don't have a lot of kids who come trick-or-treating in here. And honestly, I haven't been home on Halloween for years because usually I'm out doing public events somewhere.
Of course.
But this year, even with the virtual events and the social distance events, a lot of places either decided not to do anything at all because they weren't sure how to reinvent what they were going to do, or by the time they had an idea for it, it was too late to get a budget and everything together. So there's just not as many Halloween events this year as I would normally do. So I'm thinking, I'm not 100% on this yet, but the daily sticker giveaway thing that I've been doing on my website,
which is awesome.
if they go to the website, fill out the Halloween giveaway form, I pick one random person every day and I give them a randomly chosen Spooksy Boo sticker. But from the pool of all the winners, I may be drawing a few names to do a special Halloween thing for those people in particular that may or may not involve me showing up at their house with a basket of Halloween treats for them.
That's pretty cool. So you're going to be like the Halloween Santa during the pandemic?
Of course, the Halloween bunny.
The Halloween bunny. I like that.
My little basket of goodies. I can wear that costume. I'm going to go buy some ears right now.
I would love that. I don't know. Well, because Halloween was going to be on Saturday, I was planning on traveling. I was thinking about going to like Anoka, the Halloween capital of the world, somewhere, do something different. But now that we're stuck at home, and I have this podcast, QuestionCrunch is actually going to be doing a semi-live event where starting from 11 o'clock a.m. to midnight, we're going to have performers either send in pre-recorded videos, or if they want to do live videos, they can do that. So
nice.
If you have the time, not saying you have to, but if you're interested, you can come on.
I may have a pre-recorded video I could send you for that.
I would appreciate that greatly. And because it's also going to be Drawloween, I'm also going to be doing a bunch of my Drawloween sketches are going to be able to be downloaded and printed and colored for people at home, because I definitely want to do whatever I possibly can to make sure people's Halloweens are not shitty just because of the pandemic.
Nice. Yeah, I'm working hard behind the scenes. So this whole month, all of September, it's been posting different spooky balloon creations every day. And then like it's usually one, super photoshopped pretty picture, and then it's some pictures from some past Halloween events or projects I've worked on. But starting October 1st, I'm actually going to be doing still the spooky balloon every day, but there's also going to be a bunch of performance videos of me doing just, like TikTok style, very quick spooky magic tricks or comedy bits or puppets. And then also I have been combing the interwebs and collecting old Halloween commercials and horror-themed cartoons. So just all these funny, weird, bizarre Gonzo videos I've been collecting. I'm just going to randomly start posting those. So September's just been warm-up month. Come on. It's just going to be wall-to-wall spooky stuff of every nature on my social media and website.
Well, because this episode will happen in October. This is our first October episode, and I made sure that our first October episode had you on it.
Aww.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I told you, you're the icon of Halloween for me.
You should all be going to my social media. Go look up Buster Balloon on Instagram and the TikToks and the Facebooks and probably some on the YouTubes as well. And I'll just be slamming you with Halloween content every day for the next month, because that's what it's all about right now.
Yep, this comes out on the 2nd, so you already have two amazing posts from Buster Balloon. You gotta go check that out on his social media.
Thanks, Jimmy.
I gotta make sure about that. What advice would you give to someone who was just starting into balloon twisting?
Have fun. Like, that's it. People worry about, like, how long is it going to take me to learn this, and what techniques do I need to know, and all right, just get a bag. The standard balloon in the industry is a 260. That's the long, skinny balloon that everyone uses. Buy a pump, because seriously, don't mouth inflate. It's socially taboo right now because of the pandemic, but also I've seen 2 grown men pass out and have to be hauled out by EMTs from trying to blow up balloons.
Oh no.
Do not try to blow up those balloons. Put your ego aside and just buy a stinking pump. I'm old and I'm stupid, and for me, blowing up balloons in my mouth is kind of like smoking. I've been doing it so long I can't stop. But you have a choice. Buy a pump. That's it. Buy some 260s and a pump, and maybe some 5-inch rounds and some hearts. Go crazy with it. And then jump on YouTube, because there's a ton of videos on YouTube. Actually, after Halloween's over, I'll be starting a new YouTube channel for kids where I'll be teaching balloon twisting basics for them. But the coolest and the best balloon sculptures I've ever seen came from people who had no balloon twisting experience. And I'm sure you get this, that, you know, as an artist, there's a level of training and art school that's good because you learn those basic techniques that you need, but then it can go too far where you become too rigid and locked into things. And I see way too many balloon twisters who obsess about a recipe and how many inches is this bubble and which angle does that go at. Just learn the techniques and then play, and you'll come up with way cooler stuff that way. You can learn recipes and other designs later. Just have fun with it. And don't worry about getting a gig, don't worry about making money with it. Just have fun.